Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Serving It Up. It should be a great one. We got the full cast today: Lance, Lynn, Matt Holliday, Kyle Gibson, who, after a bit of a sabbatical, has found a way to join us today. We appreciate it. Um, Gentlemen, I think there's so much to talk about, but I want to start with the All Star game. Certainly, we want to get an update from Kyle Gibson, who we haven't talked to in a while, see what's going on with him. But they just had the All Star game, and it was settled by a swing off. A swing off. Lance, I'm going to start with you. Did you like the swing off?
Yeah, I think they should immediately implement it into the big leagues. Get rid of the ghost runner. Like I mean, there's a no doubter for me. That worked on Friday night. It's in the big leagues. That's what they should do when they get back. That's my opinion. I think it was worth television. I think no one wants to see some guy that got the last out the last inning run to second base and have to do this and that, and a pitcher be put in this a stupid situation with a guy at second base to start an inning. Pick your three best players. Everybody gets three swings. Let's see who has the most homers at the end, and let's go home. I'm not trying to
Okay, but
waste
that
time.
means
We've already been there for two and a half, 3 hours anyways. Let's see a little mini home run derby at the end. I like that.
that means the superstars are going to have to stick around so they can be in the swing off during the regular season. But during the
Yeah.
regular season, you
Usually they
anticipate they
play
will
all
be
nine.
around.
Usually they play all
So,
nine, baby.
Matt, are you a fan of the swing off?
Well, first of all, I mean, the players are always playing until the end of the game in regular season. I mean, of course they're going to be in the game, Jim.
That was me
Uh,
taking a little shot at the guys who had left.
Hey, PJs they're in the fifth, seventh, and ninth. All right, during All Star games, and if you want them to stay the ninth, don't start them. That's the point.
or have a game. I mean, if the game doesn't matter, so
Yeah.
like who wins doesn't matter. So, I like it. The thing that I liked the most was the challenge system. I want the automatic balls and strikes full go, but I'll take the challenge system moving forward. But I enjoyed being able to challenge balls and strikes, and I hope that this is just a one more step closer to um, implementing during the regular season. I think for the home run derby at the end, I think we'd have to go to some sort of like the hockey system where you get certain amount of points for a win, a loss, and then you get whatever it is, or in hockey where you have a tie and then you win the home run derby off. I don't think you should get equal value for a win of a three pitch home run derby that you do winning in nine. But I certainly think we could go to a system where points matter like hockey. So I thought it was awesome. I thought it was great to watch. Um, I just don't know that I'm not a big fan of sending the guy out to second base. Like, I mean, if it comes down to one game playoff in the regular season and you win on a home run derby and extra innings to go to the playoffs, that doesn't feel right for me. But if over the season you do it and it's points and you have it like that, then I thought it was great TV. Like, I loved watching it. So I think there's a system to be had where that could be in play. I'd be interested to see how if they could adjust it like hockey.
I like baseball the way it is. I don't like the extra column that hockey has. Like teams that are 500 teams looks like they're tearing it up. I get what you're saying that a win with the swing off isn't as valuable as a straight up win. I get that. Kyle, what do you think about the swing off?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was really cool. I think if you designate your three players ahead of time, it could create a little bit of drama as well as you get to the eighth and ninth inning. Everybody's going to know who's going to be in it, and it could create some anticipation. I've always been interested about the guy on second base, how it's a runner there, but it's not an earned run on the pitcher. It's kind of like it doesn't count until it crosses the plate, and it only counts for the team that scores it. So. I don't know. I think it's an interesting idea to create that third column for the extra innings because there's, maybe some teams that play those games that would get a half a point or however you look at it. But in general, swing off, awesome, cool TV, electric moments, on the field. I think you'd have all the teams on the field, and it'd be a walk off type atmosphere with everybody standing on the field watching their guys swing.
We all agree, though, that the ghost runner is one of the worst ideas baseball's ever had. Do we all agree with that,
Yes.
Lance?
Yes. Oh man, I mean, I understand the concept of what you're trying to do because extra innings were getting outrageous. But all in all, when you're looking at what that has done, I don't know. Like I think if you're looking at the system where you get a half a point and all that, I mean, you're looking at what we originally did with the Ghost Runner is the same thing. Now it's just changing the reason how you win. So it's like you're putting it on your three best players to take three good swings each. Um, in my opinion, I think they'd rather have to do that. I mean, you get the Ghost Runner in second, and your 7, 8, 9 are coming up. You're like, wow, that sucks. We're gonna lose because they've got 3, 4, 5 coming up. So it's like you're giving yourself both teams a chance to win with the swing off, in my opinion. Where the Ghost Runner, if the first team, if the away team doesn't score in the first inning, it should be over. So
Ghost,
it's Ghost Runner. If the Ghost Runner at second and the away team doesn't score, the game should be over right then. So it's a very where if you get three guys swinging on both sides, it's like, hey, we played 9, nobody won. Now it's all even. Let's see who gets how many home runs out of 9 swings.
I also think
Ghost
they thought that
fun.
it was going to create like a bunt, right? I think the MLB thought that the visiting team was going to automatically bunt, create some different baseball situations, create some excitement, push one run across. Well, I feel like analytics took over and said, if you score 1, you probably don't have a great chance to win. So you need to score 2. So then it kind of took out the small ball that I feel like they were trying to put back in.
Analytics
Matt,
got rid of the bunt. They don't want it ever. So they need to stop. Baseball needs to stop trying, and the fans don't want to see it either. Look at what we're talking about. We're talking about a swing off instead of them bunting and running. Like fans don't want to see a bunt in. They don't. I hate bunts in general. Everybody knows that. So let the guys swing. I'll throw them batting practice for
you
9 pitch switches. I don't really care.
you don't like when people bunt against you
I
specifically.
don't. In general, I think it's so pointless in the bunt in general. It doesn't matter who's pitching. I think it's terrible.
Matt, are you anti-bunt?
I mean, unless guys like Matt Garza are pitching and we get to see him pick it up and throw it in the stands. I mean, I think that's good TV.
That is.
Yeah. I mean, look, the only thing that I think a bunt is good for is when they scoot the third baseman way over, against left-hand hitters where they if they're gonna do that where they slide everybody so far over that the left-hand hitter literally just has to hit it over there. I mean, I think that that's an advantage of if you're going to do that, then we're going to do this. In general, giving up an out, especially against these pitchers, I don't think is a great idea because they can strike you out. So the mechanical advantage of a bunt immediately goes away when that guy punches the next guy, and now all of a sudden you just gave up an out. For 2 outs and a man on second or a man on third. So I think with all the strikeouts these days, a bunt really, like I said, outside of them cheating on defense so badly that all you have to do is get it over there. I agree with that.
What do you think, Kyle?
I didn't like the bunt when I was hitting. I can tell you that. I think I had maybe 1 or 2. A lot of pop-up strikeouts, and I didn't really like the bunt. I wanted to swing away, but but I also, on the flip side, I love PFP, so I actually love running down there and picking that ball up and throwing it to first, or being able to get it out of second, or spinning and throwing to third. So I'm probably on the fence on this one, but I think I like watching the guy swing and seeing what they can do instead of the bunt.
So the appeal thing where you tap like at spring training, Matt, I see you nodding. To me, like either you do that and you get away with, you just get rid of umpires, except maybe one IT guy, like on the field with a computer in case something goes wrong, because it emasculates.
Right.
It's like, it's one thing when you appeal a call. It happens once in a while. Bang, bang, play at first. All right. This is a ball and strike. So you appeal.
Yep.
The guy just called it a ball. Nope, it's strike 3. And then you're the umpire. You go, okay, I'll get the rest of them right going forward. So isn't that the first step with eliminating umpires, Matt?
Totally fine with that. No one comes to watch the umpires. Let's get it right.
Lance,
I mean,
I
is it
agree. I
time,
mean,
Lance?
you're looking at it's obvious that they miss both ways too. So
yeah,
it's like there's neither side that's going to disagree with if you want a strike to be a strike and a ball to be a ball, and if that's the way it is, then everybody's gonna be fine with it. We can talk to like, oh, this umpire calls this zone. That eliminates all of it. Go pitch. You go try to find the weak spots in the hitter strike zone so you can fill it up, and it's gonna pitchers are gonna start pitching to knowing where the strike zone is, and hitters will know where the strike zone is too to know what they have to cover. I think both sides it would be great if it's, hey, here's a strike zone. We don't need anybody back there putting their arm out or giving me their chainsaw when the guy strikes out or something like that. It's like, hey, that's strike three. Go get your glove. Like it's in the box. Sorry.
Are you anti-umpire, Kyle?
I don't know. I do think it's going to be quite interesting when they're standing on the field like they do at tennis, and they're not actually doing anything, and they're just standing there watching the game, just in case the IT guy has a malfunction in the system.
We can keep them around just for like the look that it's always been. Like I have no
Right.
problem with them hearing it and calling it, so everybody feels like the aesthetic of baseball is still the same. Keep them around. I don't care, but I don't want them deciding if it's a ball or strike.
Yeah.
So really, they'd be props. That's what they are. You want them to be props.
With that, and they're standing at home, they're throwing. I mean, pitchers are going to need new balls. You know,
Yeah,
they're
they still have a
certain.
certain. Yeah,
We can still make them useful.
I don't
Well,
know that.
I kind of wonder if on like outs and safe, if you still want to leave them there and do the challenge system,
yeah.
because that's going to take time. You know, if every play you've got to go and do that. So the guys on the bases will still make their calls, and then the guy at home, like you said, will have that buzzer. And I do think the challenge system is really cool. I think I just think every player should have one a game and not have three for the team. But
I agree with that.
I think the challenge system is pretty awesome. And I think if I was in favor of that, I would say, okay, the challenge system's in, and if you argue balls and strikes, you're out of the game. Whether it's a pitcher or a hitter, you have your one challenge. If you mess it up and you lose it, you don't get to argue. And if you get it right, then you keep it, obviously. But no more yelling at the umpires. You got a chance, and if you mess it up, you mess it up.
Well, I hate that part. I think we should always be able to yell at them.
Well, I
you
mean,
can still
you can
thrown
get
out,
kicked
Lance.
out.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
I mean, I'm totally fine with that. Yeah, I mean, I think it still keeps the good ejections in the game.
Yeah.
I like that. I think a manager getting ejected is one of the great things. It's a simple pleasure.
There's going to be plenty of opportunities for that still.
I want to ask you about the young pitcher Misiorowski, who pitched in a handful of games. Obviously, has a tremendous upside. Understanding that baseball wants to promote the up and coming stars, but it struck me putting him in there. There are guys who work their whole careers to be an all-star and have similar numbers, and they don't get to be an all-star. So I'm going to go around the circle. What are your thoughts on letting that young guy, Misiorowski, be an all-star? It's not his fault, obviously a talented young guy, but the sample size was too small, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's what the future game's for, right? That's why they have that one. Obviously it's not his fault, but that's a black eye to guys that have played the game and been in the big leagues for a long time. The kid is very talented. He's got great stuff. And you hope that in future, moving forward, he'll be able to make an all-star team, have starting the year in the big leagues and having, a little bigger, number of starts and innings and stuff like that. So, but I think there's more guys more deserving in the sense of guys that have done it, been there all year, have their numbers and all that. So, I hope that this isn't like what it's going to turn into, where it's going to become a popularity contest, or hey, we need to get this young guy that is making noise that's been here for 2 weeks in the game. So that's I think it was. I mean, the Phillies kind of said it. It was just a bad look. There's really no other way to say it. It's like, okay, now we're just going to pick favorites and win. And pretty much MLB's pushing this kid and putting now they're putting a spotlight on him, and now guys might even be like, okay, well, just a different way that he's going to be thought about. So all in all, I think it was a bad look.
What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, look, it gets confusing when you have all these guys that pitched, Saturday or Sunday, so they can't pitch in the All-Star game. So you're trying to find, you know, players that can pitch to eat up innings, guys that are willing to pitch. So it gets a little tricky at the end when you're trying to find enough innings. But I certainly don't think a guy that pitched 5 times kind of falls into that category. And if you have somebody you're going to name him, then at least name, the Phillies guys. Maybe they did pitch on Saturday or Sunday, but those guys should certainly be all stars. And if you can name them all stars, and okay, if they can't pitch, they can't pitch. You still have to find, but there's no real limit on all stars, as far as you can name them if they're not going to participate. So, like Lance said, you have guys that pitch their whole career, and if they put up all-star numbers and they don't get the nod because they pitched on Saturday or Sunday, and then they name a guy that's pitched 5 times in the major leagues, and he's, next thing you know, he's an all-star, he's pitching in the game. So it's out of your control if you pitch on those last 2 days. And, I don't think he should be punished for that and then rewarded because you can pitch in the game. He certainly has all-star stuff. I mean, no one can deny that, but his time will come. And for me, I don't know. I think it's a bad look when it's five outings. Like, I just think that's not quite enough for me for a guy to be considered like an all-star major league player.
Kyle, I think it's a little insulting to the guys that have, had an entire career of putting up decent numbers.
Well, I mean, I think, the All-Star game, I think, is there to obviously to reward guys who have a good first half. I think the same could be said, about, the last couple times where they've put people in the game and, maybe they haven't pitched all year. They just did it at the end of their career, right? I don't know Kirsch. I don't know much about him, but, that was also another one that was interesting, right? I think did they do it for Albert? They did it for a couple guys, maybe.
Cabrera too. Cabrera got on that last year.
I mean, so I think fans, you can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, why did these guys leave in the middle of the game? And then say, oh, well, we're just going to put these guys in here to put them in the game, because, they're a young star, right? There's just I think there's a lot on the line financially. That's probably another whole conversation that we don't even need to get into unless you guys want to. But, I mean, I just think it's there to reward guys who have had the best first halves of the season. And I've been in favor of allowing players, writers, coaches, front office to vote the all-stars and then let the fans vote the starters. Because I think, we get a chance to watch, a lot of games and pitch against a lot of players and be a part of that side of it. And I think you still would see the best players. I think you'd still see the players who deserve it. But I think it was last year, the year before, they needed another home run derby contestant, and they asked Pete, and Pete said, he wasn't going to do it unless he was an all-star. So then all of a sudden, Pete's an all-star. There's a few things that make it interesting, and I think you get to the end of people's careers and like, oh, they were a 10-time all-star or a 5-time all-star, whatever it is, and none of that goes into the conversation after the fact. So I feel like we either adjust how we look at the all-star game, or we really try to keep it to the guys who have had the most successful first halves, and do it that way. But I mean, I think Lance saw it in 2021. I don't think there was any way that Lance shouldn't have started that All-Star game. He was by far the best pitcher in the first half in the American League, and it became a little different with having Ohtani with the hitting and trying to make sure that he got the start and then hit. So it's kind of a game that is there for the fans, but there's a lot of other implications for the players, I think, that aren't thought about.
What if they had it, and this wasn't my idea, it was someone, Matt Weiner on radio had it, but what if you have like an up-and-coming player slot for the All-Star teams, American League, National League, and a legacy pick? Would you be on board with that, Lance?
See, I'm okay with a legacy pick because most likely those guys have been all-stars before and they've got the name recognition and stuff like that. So the legacy pick's fine. The up and coming thing is like, then why are we even doing the futures game and doing all these other things? So you're already doing all that. They've already got their publicity and all that stuff. And then, I mean, the thing that Matt was talking about with the Phillies guys, they wouldn't name them unless they pitched. I dealt with that in 2019 in Texas. They said, hey, you're an all-star if you can pitch in the game. And I was like, This is Saturday before the All-Star break. And then we had the Wednesday game or the Thursday game back. So we only had 3 off days from the All-Star break. And I was starting that Thursday game back against Houston. So I had to choose between pitching in the All-Star game and then leaving my team out to dry on that Thursday. And I was like, hey, I'm already scheduled to pitch that Thursday back. If you don't think I deserve it, then don't name me, but I can't pitch because I'm already scheduled to go first game back and I'd have a day off and then I'm pitching in the big leagues again. So, and they were like, okay, cool. And they named someone else. And I was like, man, that's kind of shitty, but that's the way that they work. So all in all, it doesn't really matter. It's going to depend on what Rob wants to do and what Rob makes him feels cool doing. That's where it's at. But legacy picks, I'm okay with. A guy that's still carrying beers on the bus because he doesn't have enough time not to shouldn't be in the All-Star game.
You with that? Are you pro legacy, Matt? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with it. I would never do it. Like, if I didn't deserve to be an all-star, I don't want to dress out in the all-star locker room with a bunch of dudes that had great first half and feel like they're looking at me like, oh, it's a pity pick, or like, yeah, it's charity. Like, I only want to be in there if I earned it. And I think that's like, you talk about young guys, like adding a young player. Like, I don't think that's good. I mean, I think you have to earn it. Like, be an MLB All-Star, like, to me, that meant a lot. Like, when I was growing up as a kid, like, that was a dream to be an All-Star. And I didn't want any charity, or I wouldn't think anybody would want to be a charity All-Star. And like I said, it's great seeing Kershaw pitch last night, but I already appreciate his career. I didn't need to see him at the All-Star game last night to appreciate his greatness. Like, he's one of the greatest pitchers of all time. It doesn't, affirm or change my opinion that I got to see him pitch 2 outs last night. Yeah, it was cool listening to him talk about what he was throwing. I thought that was cool. I love Clayton, but I don't need to see these great players in the All-Star game to affirm what I think about them or to honor them in their last go round. Like, I don't know if they deserve it, put them in. If they don't, then we can appreciate them in other ways. I have a lot of reverence for the All-Star game and being a Major League All-Star. I don't think we need to kind of put people in there to try to make it interesting with these kind of whatever picks they are.
I think it's ridiculous, Kyle. Though and I would imagine some contracts have little notations if you're an all-star or not, and you're not going to be an all-star because you can't pitch because of your dedication to your teammate. That's ridiculous, that part of it, to me.
Well, I think it doesn't surprise me. John Middleton and the owners in Philly are first class, and the fact that they're going to pay, Sanchez his all-star bonus because they thought he was an all-star, not surprising. Good people there. And yeah, I mean, I think that's what I was saying about the money earlier, right? Like it sitting here whining about this and that, money or contracts, whatever. But yes, every player that is playing has some type of all-star game bonus, Cy Young bonus, MVP bonus that is in there. And that, to me, goes back to my point of who is picking the all-stars, right? We don't let the fans pick the MVP, right? Because there's a certain thing to that. We don't let the fans pick the Cy Young and stuff like that. So, I mean, I just think when it comes to arbitration, when it comes to a lot of other things, all-star games really do matter. And I think that's why you want the best players in it. And I think at the same token, you have fans who say, well, everybody's an all-star. They just keep adding all-stars. Well, we just added an all-star. Like if so, you either want the best players and only the best players, or you just want to throw a lot of people in the game just to have them there. I think it's people, kind of wanting their cake and eating it too, and wanting it every which way they can have it.
So I think a few people wrote about the big stars leaving early. And I get it. Like, the baseball season is a grind. And then even if you're honored to be at the All-Star game or bring your family, like, you probably want to go home for a little while. Like, so, Lance, if you were an All-Star, which you have been, is it okay to leave early? Is it bad optics? How do you look at that?
Hey, you can't blame the players. They literally tell you they have buses going out in the 5th, 7th. Like, they have buses for you. MLB set that up. So that's on them. It's like, hey, if the guy leaves because he sets up his own transportation, that's fine. I got out of the game in second in Colorado. I watched Kyle pitch, and I was out the door in the 6 because that's when the bus was leaving to go back to the hotel, so you don't get stuck in all the hoopla. So that's part of it. That's how they have it set up. That's how it's been set up for years. And then if guys want to get on a plane and get out of there that night, they get a full day the next day, and then they have 2 days off before they got to start the second half. So it's like, hey, all-star games are awesome. They're amazing. It's a great time for you and your family. But you went straight from your game on Sunday. You had to travel that night. You have all day Monday, all day Tuesday doing everything. If you want to, and you're done playing in the game, you physically cannot go back into it. Why should you not be able to leave and then you're home at a decent hour? Because most likely it's going to be midnight before that game's over, anyways. And then if you've are got a decent flight and you can get out of there, then you have literally the whole next day to enjoy your family, enjoy your break, and you have 2 days instead of, oh, I stay there all night, I get home at midnight, I wake up the next morning because I got an early flight, blah blah blah, and then you have another half day gone. Next thing you know, you have 1.5 days of your All-Star break, and then you're just like, cool, it starts all over again. I had no break, I had nothing. So that gives a guy an actual full 2 off days. So I'm okay with them leaving, and that's just kind of how it goes. They're done. I mean, like, you're not going to let a guy go hit that's been sitting in the thing for six innings anyways. That's a good way to get him hurt. So it's like, oh, these guys should have stayed around hit. No, they were cold. They'd been wearing their turfs. Some of them might have been drinking a cocktail. You don't even know what they're doing. They don't need to go out there and hit anyway. So I'm okay with them leaving.
Now, Matt, you're a guy who would love to stick around to take reporters' questions. So that leads me to believe you would stick around. But how do you look at it?
I mean, like Lance said, you ask these guys to basically give up 2 full days of their All-Star break. And if they have a chance to jump on a plane and get to wherever their family wants to go for 2 days, then I think it's a good idea. So I like Lance. Aaron Judge was never going to hit in this home run hit off. Shohei Ohtani was never going to hit in this home run hit off. They're cold. Once they come out of the game, they're not coming back in the game to hit in the home run derby. So that was never going to happen anyways. So yeah, like it's just that's the way it's always been. Like guys have always left early. Guys come out of the game, they go take a shower.
There and they have an opportunity to jump on a private plane and move on to the next location and get a full 2 off days, they're going to do that. So they're just, complaining about nothing. I mean, it's the way it's always going to be.
What do you think, Kyle? I mean, I totally get you need an extra day so you have a little break, maybe spend time with your family. Just your thoughts.
Yeah, that's what it was for me, Jim. I didn't expect to really in my career ever make an All-Star game. That was never like a goal of mine. So when I was lucky enough to make it in 21 with Lance and be around him and be around some of the guys, that was a lot of fun. But I also had 3 kids in the fold, and I pitched I think in the third. It gave me the chance to watch a few innings, have some conversations with the guys, and then go enjoy some family time. I was fortunate enough to where my mom and dad, a lot of family came out. And I was able to spend the evening with them, after the game, and didn't just have to run back and get the kids down because we did have an early flight. So, I opted to stay in Denver that night and hang out with them. So it gave me a little bit different appreciation of that family time.
So I also wanted to talk about the draft, as Matt Holliday points out. They already had that. Obviously, it's close to you because your son was either going to go somewhere in the top 5, maybe number 1. He ends up going 4. I was hoping he would fall to 5 so the Cardinals could get him. But he goes to Colorado. So it's your kid. You're with him through the whole process. You've been through it before with your other son. Are you happy with Colorado? What are your thoughts on the way it all shook out for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it was certainly an interesting day, just like Jackson's. The way it all goes down, it literally comes down to you hear nothing until the last 2 minutes before the draft starts. You're basically, they want you sat down on the couch in front of the screen so that the Zoom of MLB Network and ESPN can capture this. So you literally are taking a call. You can barely hear. So you hear from Scott. Scott, my phone rings. It's Scott. He says, "Here's the scenario. This is what they're going to do. This is what they say. This is you make a decision on what's this. We take this number. Okay, they're going to call back. They take this to the owner. They're calling back. This is that, so it's like you're trying to make these decisions for your kid in real time, in a split second. So I prepared, going in with talking with Ethan, like what he wants and how all this works. Um, so Nationals, then Angels, and you have these conversations. The Mariners never really were an option, but the first two, were seemingly in the mix. And then I knew that, in having a lot of friends in Colorado, that if he got to 4, they would pick him. And then so it went, kind of how we thought it might go. There was obviously a couple wrinkles in there, that you look back on, and you hope that you did the right thing by your kid, and trying to make the best decision for him. But yeah, he's he's thrilled to be drafted 4th overall. Excited to go get started and get to playing, and obviously for him to get drafted where he was born, sort of born in Denver, and actually born in Tucson during spring training, but early on, living in Denver, and the team that they drafted me, uh, you know, obviously not all that, excited about the fact that they're going to set probably the losing record in modern day baseball this year. But I do think they have some guys in the minor leagues, and so the future, I think, is a little brighter than maybe just the optics of the major league season this year. But do have a lot of friends still there. Do have a lot of people in the organization I'm very familiar with. So it was a great day. It's a culmination of a lot of hard work for Ethan. He's a great kid. To see him sort of realize the first chapter of this dream. Like, I tell him, the draft is awesome, but the real work starts the next day. So you celebrate, the previous 18 years of growing up, and getting a chance to have this moment. And then once the moment happens, it's time to get back to work. And now it's the challenge of climbing through the minor leagues to get to the major leagues, and then if you can get there, the challenge of staying and having a great career. So he was thrilled. We had a great day. Jackson made it home about 9:30 that night, and so we got a chance to celebrate with he and Chloe, and just really enjoy it. And then got a chance to spend a couple days, Ethan and Jackson, here together, playing golf and working out and stuff. So it's been a fun few days, and but yeah, trying to get the contract worked out and then kind of figure out what's next.
Well, congratulations to your entire family, especially Ethan. That's a great thing. I got to ask, because you brought this up and I didn't really understand it. I think you brought up last episode of Serving It Up, which, by the way, I thought Major League Baseball used StreamYard. I guess they use Zoom. Good to know. It's good to know. Um, um, so the first 2 picks of the draft took a lot of the so-called experts by surprise. And you had mentioned that money is part of it. How much does the money that each player agent expects to get factor into where the player goes in the draft, if I can phrase it that way?
Well, they have these draft pools now, and so they have these slots that are suggested slots that nobody seemingly really wants to pay all that often. But there's suggested slots, and then they have these draft pools, and then a lot of teams are trying to save money wherever they can, and then move it back and slide it down. And so yeah, there's just a lot of different ways to look at it, a lot of strategies that teams look at, and how many picks. And you saw the Orioles trade a good reliever for the 37th pick, and the money that came with that pick to add to their pool is very valuable. I mean, they traded a very good setup man for a 37th pick in the draft that came with probably 2 or so million, maybe more, in the draft pool. So these are very valuable to these teams. They look at this, and they put a lot of value, maybe more than ever. So I mean, it's a pretty, complicated, when you look at it. It's not just like, hey, draft the best player maybe, and they try to they might look at drafting this guy because then it allows them to draft a guy that wants more money than the next slot. And so, I think every organization looks at it different and how they want to approach it. And so it's multifaceted and yes, so you have this big pool of money, you have these slots, and each team will look at it differently based on player available and need and all those things, and then that's how they make their decisions.
Whole process. Again, congratulations to Ethan and your family. The Cardinals went ahead and drafted a pitcher by the name of Liam Doyle, who reminds some people of a Chris Carpenter, maybe a Lance Lynn, because he's a fiery guy. I don't know how much you know about him, Lance, but since there were comparisons made to some of the Cardinal pitchers who were, some would say, intimidating or maybe emotional or pitch with an edge, if you had any thoughts on that draft choice.
I mean, you just look at the change in the dynamic, right? Back in the day, they wouldn't have drafted a guy that high because he's a bad apple or something like that. No, but in all honesty, you love to see kids that compete and want to compete. It sounds like he's got the desire to win, and that's something he enjoys doing. He enjoys competing and he enjoys trying to win. So usually guys can rally behind that. So hopefully that's something that works out well for him. And it looks like he's got good stuff. Obviously, you get drafted that high. So personality wise, that's going to change a little bit as you go. College and high school, and like some college coaches make these kids yell and scream when they come off because that's part of their team skit. You don't know anymore. It's all kind of changed since we were growing up and all that. But it's also part of the game and having fun. So he's got good stuff, and it looks like he wants to win. So those usually go well together.
His strikeout numbers are ridiculous, and He dropped some weight, which meant he took it seriously and had a really good season. I just saw a clip of him. Apparently, a batter called timeout, and he didn't like it, and he said to the guy, "You're blanked. You're blank," meaning you shouldn't have done that because I don't like it. And then he struck the guy out. So I appreciate the fire. I wanted to ask you, Kyle Gibson. Now you were making a comeback, and you're with the Tampa organization. I saw that you were pitching well, and then I saw that you called off the jam. Can you give us an update of what went on there?
Yeah, my time in Tampa was great. There with the Durham staff. Just the goal for me, going there was trying to get my stuff and how I felt physically to match up and the results to match up. And I felt really good. My stuff was kind of back to where I wanted it to be. Velocity was right where I needed to be. And then the stuff that Tampa was having me work on just from a pitch usage and location and execution side really worked out well. It was a lot of fun. Took my opt out at the end of it because they didn't have a spot. They thought they might, and then they didn't. And it just so happened to line up with our family lake vacation, so that was great. Went on the family lake vacation and met everybody at the lake. Can't beat that. And kind of sat and waited. Didn't really hear from too many people. I really wanted to have a big league opportunity. Didn't really have a big league opportunity until probably, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks after that last start. And at that point, I had plenty of time to talk with Elizabeth and talk with the family. And I apologize that I've missed the last 2 episodes here, but actually decided to retire a couple weeks ago. And it's been a lot of fun, being able to be around the family a lot more. We're actually packing up today to go watch the kids' Polaris race this weekend in Kansas City. So that's kind of where I ended up a couple weeks ago whenever it turned out that I just wasn't going to get the opportunity that I was looking for. And, it's been exciting being home and exciting kind of turning the page to a new chapter. And I plan on, I've kind of taken the last couple of weeks to call people and text people that I really wanted to let know in person. And I'm going to take the next few days and try to write something up and make sure that I can properly thank everybody that need to be thanked for the last 15, 16 years in professional baseball. But so that's my update here over the last couple of weeks.
Well, congratulations. Family time is always great. Do you down the road? want to do anything along the lines of coaching or broadcasting or interior decorating? I don't know. What do you want to do?
I don't know. I think coaching would be fun, but probably something that keeps me back home. I put in a call into the Cardinals already, and Mo knows that whenever their sideline reporter's done, then I'm going to try to take a crack at that. So just keep you on your toes there, Tim. Make sure that
Doesn't take much talent.
make sure that you're sharp there. All right. There's people waiting in the wings for that spot. So yeah, I don't know. I think I'd like to do something that's as close to home as possible. With our 4 kids and they're growing up, and these guys here know, watching them grow up is one of the biggest joys in life, I feel like. And that was some of the best advice I got from one of my grandfathers when I was talking to him about the decision. And he said, "Well, Kyle, watching those kids grow up only happens once, and if you miss it, I feel like you miss everything in life." So that was a big part of my decision, is trying to be around and be a dad and be a husband that I know I can be and that I want to be. So we'll kind of worry about coaching and your job here in the coming years, but
You
yeah,
probably need to take about 4 years off before you jump into sideline reporting. I
yeah.
need 4 more. My kid's still, he's a junior in high school. Then he's going to college, and I didn't have a professional salary like a baseball player. So give me about a 4-year cushion, if you don't mind.
All right,
It's
sounds
2
good.
years associates are way cheaper, just so you know.
True. So we're past the All-Star break at this point. Matt, if you're the Cardinals, how do you handle? Now they have a better idea who they are, though there's still a little time in terms of buying, selling. If you were general manager, if you were Misiorowski, uh, if you were if you were in the front office, if you were Heim Bloom, who would you go with?
Well, I mean, I think that again, you consider everything, right? You're sort of open for business, I think, because you're both building for the future, yet still feel like you have a chance this year to get into the playoffs. So I think, look, most GMs are open to just about anything, right? So it's always about fit and how what assets are you getting back for what you currently have. So, I mean, I think you listen to everything. I think, um, every player, seemingly would be on the table in the right trade scenario. So yeah, I mean, look, you could add. I mean, I think that they certainly are in a position to compete for one of the playoff spots. So I think that they're looking at probably the ability to add here and there and maybe take on some contracts or maybe take on some bad, seemingly industry contracts where teams are trying to get out from money because they don't have a ton in their payroll right now. They probably have a little room in their payroll. But also they would not. I don't think they would trade any of their top prospects as they look to the future. So I think that um, I think their young players are probably untouchable. But I think probably all their veteran players in the right scenario are probably available. So it's an interesting place to be. I don't think they thought they would necessarily be in the middle of a playoff race at this point. So I think it's thrown a little bit of a wrinkle in how they thought this season might go. And certainly I think the fans are probably a little bit surprised, but I think it's an interesting place to be where these teams that are both building for the future yet find themselves in the middle of a playoff race and could potentially add a piece or two and go for it. So I think they'll look to add as long as it's not at the expense of what the plan is for the next 3 or 4 years.
So, Lance, it was supposed to be a season of runway, and that runway led to possibly being in the postseason, which maybe changes the way they're thinking. I look at the roster, I see that there are pieces that are redundant where they have other pieces. I would think that's how you go about maybe upgrading if you have pieces that you can part with. How do you look at what you think the Cardinals might do?
What do I think they might do? I don't think that their idea from the beginning of the season is going to change. I think they're looking at runway. I think anybody that's on an expiring contract and they don't see that they're going to extend or it's going to be a part of the future is going to probably be traded. I think they're looking at, hey, what would our roster look like next year? So anybody's could be a free agent. We're going to see what we can get for them. Anybody that we see as our guy next year, position wise, or starting rotation or bullpen, they're here to stay. And then we're getting rid of anybody that we don't see a part of next year's team to get people for next year's team, and then see what the free agent market looks like to fill the rest of the roster. So I think that if they can say dump some money, as in the guys are going to be free agents anyways, you get the most talent you can coming back, and then if you're and then you kind of fill in with what you get in those trades and with what you have in the AAA, because I think they've got some arms and some position players that are kind of making some names for themselves down there. And then next thing you know, I don't think that's really going to change your playoff push. They're not going to sell the farm to get impact players to make the playoff push. So that needs to just go away from anyone's mind whatsoever. That's not going to happen. They're not going to sell their best prospects for a piece just to get to the playoffs this year. Now, if it's a guy you can control for 2-3 years, I think that might be a little different, but you're going to have to give up something with some big league talent. But like you said, you might have that on your roster. So I think it's all about giving young guys a chance next year and what your lineup and your roster looks like next year by getting rid of guys you know are not going to be there. I think if you look at it that way, they could make some additions that could be impactful in a small variety, but it's all about next year and getting rid of guys that you know are not going to be here next year.
All right, I think that's sound reasoning. Although I always look at the opportunity to get into the postseason. You see that window of opportunity, you bum rush that window and climb through it. So that might mean maybe making a move that isn't as geared toward long term as you would maybe have thought earlier in the season. How do you look at it, Kyle?
Yeah, I agree. I think you don't really know when these playoff opportunities come along. I think if you'd asked the Atlanta Braves at the beginning of the season, they would have been looking to add, and they had this window that they were, going to be right back in the playoffs, and they decided not to add certain players and not to, maybe bolster rotation or whatever it might be, and it could be a scenario where it's kind of costing them a little bit. I'm looking at the standings now. You got Cardinals; they're a game and a half out of that wild card spot, and I think 6.5 out of the division. I think 6.5 seems like a large number. I don't know how many games they have left against the Cubs, but 1 week of a 6-1 or a 5-1 can take that 6.5 and make it 3.5 really quickly. So I agree. I think Matt and Lance probably would, like, if you have a chance to make the playoffs, I think you go for it, and maybe not fully go for it. That's the wrong way to say it, because when you say go for it, it's sell the farm, go for it. But I think you add the pieces that helps you win games, whether that's an extra bullpen arm. I don't know how all the young guys are playing right now, but if you have those young guys and they're going to be there next year, then you can take a chance and add maybe a right-handed bat, add a left-handed bat that you think that you might need. It's not going to cost you one of your top 5, top 6 prospects, so you don't mortgage the future. But I think it's important for these young guys to get into playoff baseball. I think it's important, if you want to have a better team next year, then you can get in this 3-game wild card series and give these young guys experience in the playoffs now, and it might pay dividends for next year that you can't value in a prospect. You can't value in a draft pick. There's no value that you can add to that. So I think adding a bullpen and adding a bat is such an easy thing to do. And maybe they don't need it. Like I said, I haven't kept up on the Cardinals exactly, but I think they're in this. Plans can change. I've been on teams that plans don't change and they hold the course. Plans can change. Last year we were a couple hits and runners in scoring position away from being a playoff team. They've done that this year. They're a playoff team because of how they played, and I think you reward the players and you give them that chance.
All right, last thing, then we'll let you guys get on with your day. And I don't know how closely, Kyle, you've been watching, but I'm going to ask for one player on the Cardinals this season. We'll start with Lance, that has surprised you with how they've maybe taken their game to the next level.
I say surprise me. I don't know. I wouldn't say this is a surprising. I think from what just Wilson moving from catcher to first base, where he's played his whole life. I'm not surprised that Wilson's a gamer, so he's not going to. But I think it's showing everybody how much of a gamer he is. I want to give him like a shout out. Wilson's a dude. Like there's really like, he's a guy that you love playing with. You love having him because man, that dude cares and he wants to win. So I'm gonna give him a shout out for being a team guy and being who he is, and he's staying who he is. And he's not letting anybody keep him down or anything like that. He could have had pouty pants like, "Hey, you're not gonna let me catch," blah blah blah, and he won't do that because he wants to win and he wants everyone to know, "Hey, I'm here to win. Whatever you want me to do, I'll do it." So I'm gonna do that for him because he deserves that.
I agree. What do you think, Matt?
I would say Herrera probably is a better hitter than I maybe thought. I didn't know a ton about him, and the way he swung the bat in the first half has been very impressive. I know he's had some injuries and been dinged up a little bit, but when he's been healthy and in the lineup, he's been a difference maker. Maybe that I didn't anticipate him being that good of a hitter. So he's one that jumps to mind that I think has really helped provide some thump and some in the middle of the order that I thought maybe was lacking. So I would say he jumps out for me.
Hey, do you think he can hit enough to just DH?
I mean, yeah, I think so. I think so. I think and
I like
maybe
that.
maybe keep him healthy.
Yeah,
He seemingly gets dinged up a lot, but I've been impressed. I like his swing a lot. He's strong. He hits the ball extremely hard. So again, I'm not a catching aficionado as far as how much defense he should or could play. But I certainly think he's a middle of the order bat that I didn't expect.
How about you, Kyle?
I'm going to go two. I'm going to give the pitchers a little bit of love. I think Libby has been somebody that has thrown the ball pretty well. I know he had a really hot start and he had a little rough patch, but if he is the starter that the Cardinals believe he can be, and he can pitch to that right around a 4 or a little bit better, that's a really great guy to have in their rotation. Have him throw really well. Offensively, I think old Biscuit Burleson. He's surrounded by a lot of players that maybe get a little bit more name notoriety, but man, I just looked up 17 doubles, OPS over 800, and you're talking about a guy that just hits and gets on base and can use the whole field. So you guys took away some good options. So I'll give Burley some love, and he's a guy that has to keep doing it if they want to keep playing offensively and pushing offensively.
And he's getting better defensively when he's in the outfield. He's getting better and
he's
better.
He's a good defender. Like he's got a baseball IQ that allows him to be a good defender. He's got a good arm. He can play both corner outfielders and first. So he's a good defender.
I love those answers.
Matt, I've given that he's got some of Lance Berkman in it. You're like, how'd he make that play? He just does it,
Yep.
right? It's like, and he's fun to be around. He's got
Yep.
a good sense of humor, and like, and he's just a
I like
ball
it.
player, man. It's a good.
They kind of favor one another. Later in, yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. Gentlemen, well done. Kurt, Kyle, it's good to have you back. And guys, I appreciate the time. Good stuff. Matt, thank you for talking a little draft with us. And Lance, thank you for always being Lance. That's going to do it for this edition of Serving It Up. We'll see you next time. Hopefully, that show won't be awful.